So, you're about to sign a contract for your new student house. Hopefully you're excited about this, but as contracts are a legal process, we want to be 100% sure that you understand what you're signing, whether you've done this before or not, so that there's no confusion later on. In spring 2026, the rules around what renting looks like and how contracts are handled change significantly, so it may be different to what your friends or family have previously experienced. We're no longer allowed to sign tenancy agreements more than 6 months ahead of the start of the tenancy. So if you are now within 6 months of the tenancy, you'll go ahead and sign the actual tenancy agreement. If you are currently more than 6 months from the start date, we'll sign an interim agreement now, which is called an agreement to lease. This is not a tenancy agreement, but it is a legal contract which commits all parties to entering into a tenancy at a later date, which is detailed in the agreement. It's important to understand that either agreement, once signed, is a legally binding contract. Once you sign it, you are bound by its contents, whether you like it or not. So it's important that you've read it, understand it, and are happy to commit to everything it says before signing. Occasionally things can go wrong in a tenancy, and if it does, this document will determine what happens and who is responsible for what. The terms of the contract should have been detailed in your intent to apply email before you paid your holding deposit, and again before signing the contract. Do not hesitate to ask if you have any questions, as once the contract is signed, it's too late to make changes and you are bound by it. Student group contracts are known as jointly and severally liable. What this means is that there is one rent for the whole house, and every member of the group is entirely responsible to ensure that the full rent is paid on time. Now, in practice, you'll almost certainly split the rent between you so that you each agree to pay your share. But you are all responsible until the whole rent is paid. So it's really important that you trust your housemates to pay their rent. If you are still unsure as to whether you want to go ahead with the tenancy, please don't sign any contracts and make this known to everyone ASAP. If you pull out at this stage, you'll lose your holding deposit, but that's much better than being tied into a contract that you don't actually want. Once you've signed the contract, if you wish to withdraw from the process, the landlord is able to claim against you for a breach of contract for any expenses, such as the cost for reletting, which can be much more expensive, especially if they're unable to do so. The expectation of your housemates, your landlord and us, is that you'll be renting your house for the duration of the academic year, and you should not sign the contract unless you fully intend to see it through. Paying your rent is your number one responsibility as a tenant. You must ensure that you have the means to pay your rent in full, on time, every month without fail. There's no excuses for not paying your rent. You will need to start paying your rent from the very first day of your tenancy, regardless of when you actually wish to move in. So if your tenancy starts on the 1st of July and you don't need to move in until mid-September, that's fine, but you will still need to pay your rent from the 1st of July. Rent payments take a few days to be transferred by your bank. So we'll ask you to set up a standing order to send us the funds each month 4 days prior to the due date to ensure that your rent is paid on time. The easiest way to pay is by standing order, which is a regular bank transfer from your bank account to ours. Many students rely on their student finance to pay their rent. However, your first loan payment doesn't come in until late September, so you'll need to make other arrangements to pay your first, second or even third month's rent. Many students will have an arrangement set up with their guarantor or parent to advance them the money for the rent, which is then paid back once your loan comes in. Remember, it is your responsibility to ensure that this is arranged and that all rent is paid on time. As students, I'm afraid to say you will likely have a poor credit history and no financial security, so we require a guarantor for each student tenant. Guarantors are usually your parents or another family member, although it doesn't have to be, who will sign another contract to guarantee your rent. If you don't pay your rent within 14 days of it being due, they become liable for your rent. Note that this process also protects you against one another and makes it much less likely that you'll ever have to cover the rent for another housemate. Guarantors need to be based in the UK, and we're now forbidden under new regulations from taking rent in advance instead of a guarantor. Therefore, international students or anybody without a guarantor will need to pay for a guarantor service, such as rentguarantor.com. With lots of parties involved, getting everything in on time can be tricky. Please make sure you do everything you need to ensure that the process goes smoothly and quickly. If your tenancy start date is more than 6 months away and you're signing an agreement to lease, you can do everything now apart from signing the tenancy agreement and paying the balance of your deposit. You'll need to sign any agreement sent to you online. It comes to one tenant at a time, and do check your spam or your junk folder if you don't see it. With guarantor forms, please ensure that these are signed by your guarantor and returned to us immediately. The government requires that we see proof that you have the right to reside in the country, and we need to see original documents in person. If you're a British citizen, we just need to see your passport, and this can even be out of date because you have an indefinite right to remain. If you don't have a passport, we need to see both your driving licence and either a birth certificate or a university acceptance letter. If you're at the UEA, this can be downloaded from the eVision portal. If you're an international student, please Google "Prove my right to rent" and click on the link and send us your share code. If your start date is less than 6 months away, in addition to these things, you can now sign your actual tenancy agreement, and you now need to pay the balance of your damage deposit. Your deposit will be protected with mydeposits.co.uk and will be held in a designated client bank account until the end of your tenancy, when we will refund it to you, less any justifiable deductions. Please note that your tenancy is not finalised and secure until all items have been completed. We trust that's all clear. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to seek clarification from your property manager before proceeding. They'll be very happy to answer any questions.